Welcome to the One Player Podcast! Yay! Oh, stupid alarm. Hi everybody, welcome back. Yeah, this week we're talking about a game called In Dreams. This is a solitaire journaling game. Though it's published by a board game publisher and on BGG like if it were a board game. Anyway, before we talk about the game, let's have a little bit of news. Julius is going to be unavailable for the next few weeks, possibly longer. It's not entirely clear. He said he's gotten super busy right now with personal life stuff, and so he's just kind of overwhelmed and needs to take a break, and hopefully he'll be back in a few weeks, he said. In the meantime, I'll be doing this solo. I may be off next week. I haven't decided yet. It just kind of depends how much I can get done. Can I get a game played enough to talk about it in a week? And I think I'm good, but we shall see. That being said, if anybody wants to come on the show, just send me a geek mail or an email, albert@oneplayerpodcast.com, and I'll be happy to have a guest to talk about any games you want to talk about. So just reach out. It'd be great. I would love it. I had been planning on covering Fields of Fire soon. It's a war game by GMT. I started playing it. I pulled out the rule book. I started reading it, and then I got enough where I said, okay, I'm ready to start the game. Let me fill in the campaign sheet, which is one of the things you have to do. You have to fill in a campaign sheet listing all the units you have available to fight with. And man, that has such a bad rule book. The information on how to fill out the sheet is just so bad. I couldn't figure it out. I spent 5 or 10 minutes looking at the sheet, looking at charts, eventually realizing that the back of the sheet was the side that I'm supposed to start with, and kind of figuring that out. But the things on the sheet don't line up with the chart, so it wasn't all clear. I just gave up. I said, you know what, this is not worth it. Looks like there's a new version coming out, and that's going to have better rules. I looked at the online rules, and I said, wow, yeah, this answered a lot of the questions I had. I wish I had this available already. So I decided, you know what, this older second edition, it's not worth it. I'm just going to set this aside. I'm going to back the GMT's P500 for the newer edition and get just the upgrade that had the rule book and all whatever else I need, I guess. And when that's available, then I'll learn the game and play it. So it's a little mini review here. If you haven't played Fields of Fire, don't bother with the older versions. Wait for the newer one. Or if you have the old version, get the upgrade kit that's coming out. It looks like it's going to make a big difference. All right. So that is just me filling in time, because I got to talk about one game for 30 minutes by myself. And without that back and forth dialogue of two people, it tends to go quicker and it tends to be less dynamic. So it just won't be as big. Anyway, this week's game is In Dreams by Jamie Thul and Mike Berg. As I said, it is a solo journaling game. It's published by Side Room Games. It's also available on P&P Arcade, so you can print it out and download it and print it out yourself, buying it digitally. However, it's a card game, and these are double-sided cards, so I don't think I would recommend doing the P&P version. You'd have to print out double-sided cards, which can be really hard to line up the fronts and backs of things like that, or print them out front on separate sheets of paper, cut them all up, and then put the two pieces that go together in a sleeve. And that just seems like a hassle. I think this game cost me $15, maybe $20. For the amount of hassle I'm not dealing with, I think that's worth it. It's a small game. It's I said it's published by Side Room Games, so it's the same size and style of box as, say, For Northwood, the solo trick-taking game we talked about a year ago. Also Grove and a couple other games that they have made. They're basically little telescoping tuck boxes. It's a card box, and you slide the top off, and inside is lower box with space for the cards. This game has about, I'd say 70 or 80 cards, maybe. I'm not sure. The rulebook doesn't say exactly how many. Maybe it's just a regular deck of 52 cards. That's possible. I'm not going to count them, so that's okay. We'll just go with 50. Yeah, let's call it 50. 52. There are two types of cards. There are location cards that you're going to draw from the deck as you're playing, and there's event cards that may or may not come up as you're playing, depending on how the locations show up. You know what? I'm not following my normal rubric. What is first? Summary. This is a game about traveling through dreams and journaling the experience. There we go. So then the components. Yes, I was on track. Look at that. So there's two types of cards I mentioned, right? The first card are the location cards. These are double-sided cards. They have images on the front and back, and these are a full like bleed images, so that they stretch from end to end on the cards. They're pretty surreal looking, and they're very strange and very, very unique looking. And actually, the art style, I recognize it looks like something generated by the image generator Wombo Dreams. I think Wombo is the publisher, and the utility is called Dreams. And you type in a prompt and generates images, and you can use all sorts of styles. The earlier versions, a lot of it looked just like this stuff. So when I saw the cards, I said, "Oh, this was done with it. I recognize it. I totally recognize it." But it's really distinct, and it's pretty art, I think. Tends to be a little bit on the dark side. Tends to be very surreal. You see things like mountains that maybe, as you look closer, might actually be a windmill. And, oh, is that clouds or is that smoke? I can't tell. And in the front, there's maybe trees and valleys, and oh, that tree actually kind of looks like a person in a robe, maybe, and it's almost abstract. And it's actually really good because as you're using it for prompts and you look at the picture, you're able to interpret it many ways. Anyway, though, I'm kind of jumping forward, aren't I? So these location cards, they're double-sided, different image on each side. I'll call it the front. I don't know which is the front, which is the back. One side, they all have a number in the top left corner and a symbol. The numbers are either 2, 3, or 4. You're going to use those numbers two different ways. First of all, at the beginning, you can use it to make a character. And then secondly, as you're playing, to determine how many cards you draw. The symbol underneath will be used as you're playing to determine if there's a random event or not. On the lower half of the card, in the right corner, on this front side, there is a label. They could say things like illusion, desire, truth, awakening, history, shelter, different terms. And then below that term, four other words. For illusion, it could be mask, delusion, mirage, or distortion. And they're lined up vertically with a little line to the side of it. On the left of each card, both front and back, there's a little arrow, and the arrows always will line up with one of the 4 words, such that if you place 2 cards side by side, the arrow on the right is pointing to one of the 4 words on the card on the left. And as you're playing, what that's going to do is going to give you different random prompts each time based on the cards that are laid out. That is the front of the card. The back of the card is similar. The only difference is it lacks those words in the bottom right. So it has the image, the number in the top corner, and the arrow on the bottom left. The number and the symbol on the top is the same on both sides. Those are the location cards. The event cards. These are events that could come up. I mentioned those symbols. When you're playing, if you have 2 cards that have the same symbol side by side, you draw an event. You get the top event card and you flip it over, and then you get the event next to it. And similar to location cards, they'll have one side has some words and the other side has an arrow, and actually more words. And you'll combine the two to get a unique event. Let's call this here's the front. Okay, this event is, and there's 3 words: mysterious, unsettling, or predicted. And I believe those, and there's also a conflict, so there's at least 4 different words, and they show up on the cards in different order, and each card has 3 of the 4 or 5. There's more words. There's reminiscent, mysterious, hopeful, but these words are repeating over and over. There aren't too many different words. I'm thinking maybe 6 or 7 at most, from what I can see. So there's that word on the right, on the left side of the card, so it'll end up being the right card. The arrow points to the left. The back then has 3 events that would line up with those words. And there are things like, you are offered something very valuable to your quest at no cost. What's the catch? The weather is becoming dangerous. What does it look like? How will you proceed? Or, you encounter a stranger who has lived here for 1,000 years. Do they offer you wisdom or warning? And at what price? So you would take these 2 events and line them up. The card on the left has an arrow that points to one of the 3 words on the right. The card on the right has an arrow that points to one of the events on the left. And so you take that event and that word, and you somehow put them together to figure out what your event is. It all sounds rather abstract so far. Probably it is. It's a journaling game, and journaling games tend to be open ended and abstract, so you could come up with your ideas just based on prompts, and that's what this is. These are different prompts that you're getting. So that's the entire components. There's nothing else. If you're playing, you need to supply your own method of journaling, a book and a pen or however you want to do it. Then you're ready to play. The components. Let's talk about the theme. I think the theme works pretty well. The art on the cards is all very abstract and surreal, so it does tend to feel very dreamlike. One thing that I find is lacking, it doesn't really describe any kind of setting other than you're in a dream when you're going through the rulebook, so you don't, I don't know if it's supposed to be a fantasy setting or science fiction or real world or what. The cards to me looks rather fantasy-esque, but I don't know what it's supposed to be. So I have tried playing it as a fantasy setting game mostly. I tried placing it as a modern setting game, but it always ended up being surreal and kind of strange. So I think the theme works. The cards are surreal and you're in a dream. Really, that's all there is to it. The art works pretty well. Rules. Okay, so the rule book is tiny. It's about the size of a deck of a playing card, and it is 12 pages cover to cover. And 2 of those pages are just the front and back cover with art, so not much else. There's not a lot of text to the rules, so honestly, I wish there were more rules. They're a little bit vague, is what I found. There's a lack of theme to get me in the mood for the game. So when I was playing, I did feel a little bit lost, but they do explain the mechanics well. It does do that, and I had no problem understanding how to play. Where I got into trouble was figuring out what should I do? What is my goal in this game? What's this story? It's a little too abstract. So I wish there was more guidance, and I understand why it wouldn't fit in such a tiny rule book. So maybe a couple more pages, or maybe guidance saying, hey, go check out online if you want more detail or examples of how to play. That would have been fantastic. Otherwise, I'd say it's pretty adequate. The one thing I found interesting is when I mentioned I saw the art and I said, oh, this is Wombo Dreams. I recognize the art style. I know this is the app they must have used, and I had trouble finding anywhere that was mentioned, and it is in the rulebook actually, but I didn't find it. It says all art generated by Jamie and Mike using Wombo Dream. So it is using AI art, and I wish there's more on that other than just that tiny kind of hidden phrase. I mean, it's not super hidden. It's right there, page 1, second sentence after the heading. So I should have caught it. Shame on me. But I don't know. I kind of wish it was more, because that's kind of a big deal these days, right? AI is all new, and I think if somebody's using it, they should spotlight it a little more and talk about why and whatnot. I think in this case it was a good choice. As I said, the art style is very distinct. I have never seen art like this other than what was generated through Wombo Dreams. So I think using it made sense as they were going for a specific goal, and this style accomplishes that goal. But again, I do wish it had talked a little more about it. A thicker rulebook would have been awesome. Maybe a rulebook with tiny text that I wouldn't be able to read, but that wouldn't be so useful. So the gameplay. Okay, so it's pretty simple. You're going to shuffle up those location cards, and you're going to then draw combinations of them, pairs of them, to figure out your character. You're going to draw 2 cards, and they have those numbers in the top corner, and I mentioned they're either 2 or 3 or 4. So for example, I drew 4-3 first. I'm then going to look in there's 4 little charts. I'm going to look up that number, reference it first on the first chart, then on the second chart, then on the third, finally on the fourth. Or each time with 2 different cards. Anyway, you're gonna draw a pair of cards and look them up in the first chart to get one of their prompts. Then you can draw another pair and do the second chart, and so on for the third and fourth charts. And what you're doing is you're building a sentence. The sentence is, I am A and am B, and before this dream ends, I must see D. Right? So A, B, C, D are the different prompts in the charts. So the first pair will get you, I am, for example, I got a 4 and a 3. Looking at the chart, achieving a goal. So I am achieving a goal, and am B. Well, let's draw 2 more cards, which are 34. I am achieving a goal and am relieved. And before this dream ends, I must, then CD, I'll just pick a couple here, release the path, or summon a prophecy, or discover a friend, whatever the combination is. So, these 8 cards I drew will give me a different sentence each time. I am A and B, and before this dream ends, I must C D. I must do something. That is now the framework under which my dream is going to revolve. Then, once I've done that, I will shuffle my location cards again and draw the first card and place it in front of me on the table here. And it has a number 4. That now means, and I'm placing it with the side up that has that text. I am drawing 4 cards total. So that's 1, add another card next to it, another card next to it, and another card next to it. All the cards, except the last one, will have the text face up. The last card has the text face down. I will then look at those cards with the text face up and see which arrows on the card to the right of them line up. I can get a set of words. In this case, for example, the card is heat and the highlighted word is warmth. The second card is curiosity and intrigue. The third card is history and it's recent history. So I've got warmth, intrigue, recent history, and a fourth card without any text on it. The fourth card is my location. So I will now look at that picture and think, what is this location? What does this mean to me in context of my quest and what I know so far of this world, which at this point is nothing other than my quest and these 4 cards. And also, I'm looking at the picture and the other words that apply, warmth, intrigue, and recent history. And so, warmth, intrigue, and recent history. How do those relate? That makes kind of no sense, right? And my picture that I'm looking at seems to be some sort of grotto, maybe, with candles lit throughout, and maybe a pond with rocks underneath the water. That's sort of what it looks like. It looks like I'm in a cave or a grotto, maybe. It kind of almost looks like these candles are set up to cause a ritual. So maybe it's a location where there's a ritual. Maybe it's just a cave. There's different ways to interpret it. But, and this is where I find I get lost. I have no idea what's going on right now. I'm just going to look at these cards and just get my journal and just start writing whatever comes to mind. Keeping in mind my starting sentence about who I am and why I'm in what I'm doing and these things. That could be tricky to start, but I find just start writing. Don't worry about it. If it doesn't make sense so much, it's okay. It's a dream. Just keep going. Don't worry about it. And you write and you journal whatever you're thinking. And the game says, do this. And if by the time you finish writing whatever you're writing for this set of cards, if your quest did not finish, if you didn't accomplish what you're trying to do, which in my case, what was it? Oh, I don't remember. Release a higher being or seek a prophecy. Maybe let's call it seek a prophecy, whatever. So if by the end of my journaling here, I didn't seek my prophecy, I will then draw another card for a new location. And this time it's a 2, so I will flip a second card over. And I have winds of time and a location that looks like a city with sort of a tall building with rounded tops, like maybe domes. It almost looks like a hotel or some sort of office building. So again, now I will consider this and keep writing based on these new prompts that I got. And what do these things mean to me? I figure it out as I go along. That's the type of game this is. Let's step back real quick because I did not talk about the events. Let's say those first 4 cards I had. There's 4 cards. That's a fair bit. They have symbols on them. There's a swirl, 3 lines, something that kind of looks like an hourglass, and a swirl on the 4 cards. Now, if 2 of the cards that were adjacent had the same symbol, maybe those 2 swirls were next to each other, and I draw my events. And I get the first card and my second card and line them up, and my event is, you feel like you're being watched and turn around. Who is there? And it's reminiscent. So I've had this feeling of being watched before, or the person that was watching me is from somebody that just seems familiar to me for whatever reason. Maybe I recognize them, or maybe they remind me of somebody I know. again, I'll work this into my dream that I'm writing about, and fill in the prompts and go along. That, friends, is the gameplay. That's how it works. You kind of just keep going and writing and trying to suss some kind of coherent story out of this, keeping in mind that it's a dream. So if it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, it's okay. And if things sort of just change from one prompt to the next, it's kind of okay. Just work it in. It doesn't have to follow coherent thought. And again, if by the end of this prompt you reach a conclusion, great, you're done playing. I hope that was fun. If not, draw another set of cards and keep playing until you reach a conclusion. That I find that weird. That just keep writing until you feel like you've got a conclusion. Each time I'm playing, I start feeling kind of lost, and I'm writing, and sometimes I'm going somewhere. Sometimes it's just going nowhere, and I keep writing. And I do feel like eventually it does lead to an end point. And most of the time it's taking me, I'd say, between 3 and 6 prompts to finish a play of this and come up with a story that feels like it makes sense. And it is very much, you're creating a story. You're doing a creative writing process using these cards to guide you. When you sit down, you don't know what you're going to write, really. And the cards will reveal the story as you go. So it does feel very much like a creative writing process where you're discovering what's going on. I mentioned mostly that to me they feel like fantasy. I don't know if that's me or the cards or a combination of that, but all the stories were, honestly, it's in dreams. You're traveling through a dream, and it reminded me of H.P. Lovecraft's dream cycle stories, like the Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath, and a few, I don't remember the others offhand, the Silver Key, where he goes to these dream worlds and does stuff. And I think my stories kind of felt like that, felt a little bit Lovecraftian, and these sort of long, epic dreams that you're in them for a long time, and things don't necessarily have to line up with the real world very well. Traveling great distances could happen overnight, or you could talk to the cats, and things like that. So it felt very Lovecraftian in the Dream Quest cycle sense of it, not so much in the Cthulhu sense of Lovecraft. I like that. I do like the dream cycle stories of Lovecraft, so I thought it was interesting. Other than that, I don't know that I specifically ever felt like it was a dream that I was writing about. It almost, to me, it more felt just like a fantasy setting that I was writing about. I don't know if that's different or not, really, but that's what I got out of it. The last time I played, I said, I don't want to make this a fantasy setting. I'm just going to write like it's a modern location. It's just me in a modern world, whoever this me is. And I started doing that, and again, feeling lost, not sure what I was writing about. And it ended up sort of being a story where I was going to a high school graduation reunion, and I was meeting up with some sort of rival, and I get there and I'm seeing other people and talking, so it's all feeling very normal. But as the story is coming along, and this is probably by the 3rd or 4th prompt, apparently this person I'm meeting is some sort of wizard that has gone off to, travel the astral realms and is coming back, and we end up facing off and fighting with magic. So it ended up being rather surreal, yeah. I guess that is kind of dreamlike. It was fun, it was interesting, but at the same time, I don't know if it's this game or me, but also like I was happy to be done each time. Sometimes I kind of even felt like maybe I rushed to the end a round or two faster than I needed to. Other times it didn't. I think it kind of depended on the story. And the issue there was, again, not having guidance, not knowing what's going on, feeling lost. These stories just seemed, I don't know, just they seemed, I don't want to say pointless. I'm not sure that's the right word. They seemed without direction, though, so that is pointless, I guess. But that is the game in dreams. It's tiny little game. I think it was only $15, maybe $20. Super compact. I like that it's a deck of cards, and I like that it uses art instead of, say, rolling on tables constantly and using word prompts. So I do like the game, and I think it's really cool, and it's something that's easy to travel with. I wish I had more guidance anywhere or examples, and that I don't see. So that, I say, is the biggest drawback. There is one issue with the physical printed copy, actually, and I hadn't really noticed until I read about it on BGG, but all the location cards looks like there's a glowing white bubble in the top left corner of every single card in the same exact spot. And what looks like it is the in the top left corner where the number is with the symbol underneath it. It looks like that bubble was supposed to be behind it so to give it a nice glow around the number, and it was just printed misaligned. The two layers of the image just weren't lined up correctly, and whoops, and every single card has this weird bubble or light spot on the top left. And it doesn't really affect gameplay. And now that I've seen it, I can't unsee it, but sometimes it ends up being part of the story. Sometimes it enhances the image in the way I'm interpreting it, I think. So it isn't problematic. It's just odd that it's there in every card. That is In Dreams. I like the game. It's weird. It might be a little bit challenging, but if the theme is for you, I think this is a good journaling game. All right, that's it. Look at that. Just under 30 minutes right now. That's actually pretty good. This is better than I thought I would do. All right, thank you, everyone. I'm not sure what will be next, but I have a couple ideas, and I don't think it will be a journaling game again. I've been doing quite a few of those. I think I'll be talking board gamey stuff. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. We love feedback, so we love hearing from you. You can reach me at julius@oneplayerpodcast.com or JLBird on BGG, and Albert can be reached at albert@oneplayerpodcast.com or Fractalute on BGG. Our website is oneplayerpodcast.com with the number 1, and we're also on Twitter at oneplayerpodcast. The intro music is copyright Angus, can be found at jamendo.com. The transition music is copyright by Dan Elduce Pancaldi, whose page is at donpancaldi.com. The One Player Podcast is protected under a Creative Commons share-alike license. Thanks for listening.